hosting this. I'm going to ask a tax question of Mr. Greco, Mr. O'Malley, but on the regulatory side, a story, the Gulf Coast where I live refines a bit of energy production in America. As a result of high vehicle travel, topography, and industry, we've had to work hard to lower our ozone emissions over the past decade, successfully have. We've invested industry about $1 billion to do that. Ironically, some of the key technologies that EPA has mandated our refineries to use to lower NOx and ozone emissions, the byproduct is it drives up CO2 emissions, which we are now told we have a problem there. It would be wonderful if the EPA's right hand knew what its left hand was doing, so that when we make these types of investments, we can actually meet the clean air standards we all want to do. My question, Mr. Greco and Mr. O'Malley, relates to the manufacturing deduction that was created in mid-2000s. The goal of it, we looked at the jobs going overseas, Ways and Means Committee and others, and said, look, if a company manufactures, produces, invents here in the United States, creates jobs in the United States, you have a lower tax rate than if you do that overseas, the manufacturing deduction, which has worked. It is, my understanding, a key part of the refinery puzzle. The President has proposed eliminating that deduction for one industry in America, energy. One industry, one manufacturing industry in America, energy. So my question is to Mr. Greco and Mr. O'Malley, when it comes to the Northeast, whose goal is to maintain existing capacity and restart capacity that has been lost, if the President succeeds in eliminating that manufacturing deduction, does it make it easier to bring back that capacity, harder to bring back the capacity, or have no impact? Mr. Greco?
I can certainly talk about the industry broadly. As you mentioned, this is a broad manufacturing tax deduction, applies to all manufacturing industries. The proposals on the table are to single out one industry, the oil and gas industry, and to eliminate that. Anytime you change a tax, make a tax change like that, specifically to one industry in particular, you are going to disadvantage that industry relative to its foreign competition. So if you want to look at tax policy broadly, and which is a true national U.S. conversation, we ought to do that. But to single out a single industry and a single tax credit for punitive treatment relative to other industries is poor tax policy and is not going to support our refining industry.
Thank you, sir. Mr. O'Malley?
I've operated refineries in both England and Germany, two companies that, in fact, invented socialism. They have lower corporate tax rates than the United States has. Anything that would give us less of an advantage on taxes is going to make the business more difficult. This business has a very low rate of return on a historical basis, about 3% per annum over the last 20 years.
Can I stop you there? Can you make that point one more time? Because we get the impression up in Washington that big oil is all one monolith making money hand over fist. Did you just say in the refining sector that margins, how much?
The margins are incredibly small. Over the past 20 years, the rate of return on capital employed in the refining business is about 3%. It's a marginal business. The majors are leaving this business. When I entered the business, about 15% was controlled by independents. Today, we're up to 60%. When very, very smart and big and rich companies exit a business, there's usually a reason. And the reason is it's a low-return business.
Does that play into your testimony, the point you made early on that the Northeast has lost these refineries because they can't make money?
The Northeast lost the refineries because they can't make money. I mean, Sunoco lost $1 billion over the past 3 years running these refineries. Certainly, ConocoPhillips would never close a refinery. I speak from some base of knowledge. At one of my many career stops, I was vice chairman of that company. I move around a bit. People don't like to keep me too long. They closed that refinery because they were losing a lot of money on the refinery, plain and simply. Nobody does this to hurt people. Okay?
I would like to keep you longer, but our time's expired. So Mr. Duffy's recognized.